So hello and welcome to the Expat Pod. Welcome to the shorter, quick fire questions version of the podcast. Today I'm joined by Katy, and Katy, you now just did the full podcast recording now, so we're doing this little short version. If you haven't listened to that already, please do go. There'll be a link by my head somewhere. You can open a new tab or go find it on however you're listening to this. If you're watching on YouTube, there should be something around my arm now, which you can go and use to navigate to it. But please watch it after you finish this episode, of course. So Katy, this is essentially just a bit of a flavour of your time abroad. It's a chance for whoever's listening or watching to just kind of get the highlights or the kind of little things which might inspire them to travel. So my first question to everyone is always, where is your favourite place you've ever lived?
My favourite place is New Orleans, closely followed by Colombia. Colombia exceeded my expectations. It's not as bad as what people make out.
And why New Orleans? Is it because of the music, because of the food, the vibe?
The vibe, the music, feeling like I've been there before. It felt like home to me. I just really enjoyed it, really liked it. So I would definitely go back there again.
Amazing. Was it the smell of Bourbon Street as well? Because it's got quite a distinctive smell.
Yes, it has, yeah.
And then what's your favourite international food?
My favourite international food is what I mentioned earlier in the podcast. It's from Mexico and it's called mole. And it's essentially like a chocolate sauce that you have with other savoury dishes. It's quite dark chocolate in flavour, so it's not sweet per se, but it adds a real depth to the food and it's just different. So that stands out in my mind as being just really nice food, really.
So you have guac and mole together or something else?
No, it's like almost like you'll have a protein and then you'll have this mole sauce, this dark chocolate sauce over the top, and that is the dish. So it's all about the sauce, really. You know what I mean? You may as well call it mole soup in a way. It's all about that sauce.
It's like gravy, is it?
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe that's why I like it. I'm a northern bird and I like gravy, and I like chocolate, so it's going to be my favourite dish, right? But yeah, that's one of the ones that stand out in my mind. There's loads, but for quick fire, mole.
Incredible. What's your favourite international tradition?
I would say I really enjoyed, and it is a tradition, but I think it's more put on for tourists now than anything, is when I was in Bali, I enjoyed watching the traditional Balinese dance and sort of how they portray the past through dance and show a lot of the stories that they do. And it's just nice, the nice music, and you're sitting there in this Balinese weather and just like watching this Balinese dance. That's the tradition I liked the most.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. I have to go research that after this call. What's your favourite thing about living abroad?
Freedom, the sunshine on my face, the ability to wake up every day and live life on my terms. And also seeing the different cultures makes me appreciate what I've got and makes me appreciate that happiness can come from very little.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Very quite grounding in that sense as well. You don't need a lot to be happy. What's your best homesickness remedy?
Try and find what it is that you're feeling sick about close to you, because the chances are you will. So if it's a roast dinner, go and find a roast dinner or create your own. It might not be as good as home, but it'll be as close to, and it'll counteract that a little bit. So yeah, look a bit closer to home, which is essentially where you are, and you'll find it around you. You just need to kind of do a little bit of self-awareness.
That's a great tip. What's the hardest thing about living abroad?
I think the hardest bit was obviously not seeing family so much. But again, there can be ways around that with the technology we've got today. You can still pick up a phone. You can still have a Zoom call or Skype call. There can be ways around it. But I think, missing out on those family connections can be a big one.
Completely. Yeah, it's very, very important to find new ways of communicating and keeping those relationships going, ones that matter anyway, I suppose. Well, what's the best phrase you've learned whilst living abroad? Now, because you live in so many places, you might have heard so many amazing phrases or like idioms. Is the one that sticks out?
This is one that I learned, not this travel time, but when I travelled 15 years ago when I was staying in Cambodia. I actually bought out a t-shirt. I need to do it again, actually. But what they say a lot in this region of the world, in Asia, is same but different. I don't know if you've heard that. So I had it on a t-shirt. I had same on the front and different on the back. And it's quite an interesting phrase. I don't know exactly what the meaning is, but the way I interpret it is we're not that different from one another in a way. That's the way I interpret that saying. And it's true. At the end of the day, we're all living in different places. We're living in different lives, but essentially we're all from that same matter, aren't we? We're all from that same energy. So I would say that's my favourite one.
Yeah, I guess we're all also primitively wired in similar ways to want the same things like food, family, future, that kind of thing. It's all about survival. So we are the same. I thought when you said it might be that you may look the same or you may be the same, but because you've travelled and explored and gained empathy for people, you might be different as well. So looking internally.
That could be another way. Like literally you could take that phrase and people could interpret that in any which way that they want. It's just I interpret it as we're all one of the same. Do you know what I mean? We might have our little variations, but essentially we're all from that same energy source at the end of the day. So
definitely. What's your best way of making new friends?
I think the best way of making new friends now is trying to get out there, trying to go to places, whether it's having a beer or doing a bit of bowling or cinema or even just going down to the mall, trying to go where the locals go. Like some places, they're really big on playing snooker or pool. So maybe go and have a game of that, like find out what the locals enjoy doing, seeing if you can connect with it and seeing if you can give it a go. So that's something I like to try and do. And yeah, just trying to put myself out there as much as possible now that I'm a bit more settled in each place. So yeah.
Definitely, I guess the main thing is if you're an introvert, leave that behind you because you have to be extroverted in certain ways in order to breach those connections. But most people who travel are already quite good at going out the comfort zone, so you need to push that a bit further, perhaps. Yeah. What's the favourite thing to do in your new home? So you're now in Sri Lanka. You've lived in the same places, but go to where you're living now in Sri Lanka. What's your favourite thing to do where you currently are?
So where I am in Talawilla, there is a lagoon. So I like to kayak on the lagoon. I like to go in the pool several times a day. It's a godsaver to cool me down. So I tend to go in a little dip like 3-4 times a day, sometimes more. And that's really good for a reset as well because, being a perfectionist, which I will always still be, I don't think it ever leaves you, I can sometimes be a bit of a workhorse as well. So it kind of forces me to do a reset and go and do something different. So this is why I say environment's important to me because it forces me to go and do something different. Whereas if I was working back in the UK, I wouldn't need a pool, but I wouldn't necessarily go out in nature as much as what I do here, So it really does force me to do the things that I know I should be doing anyway, but I need that nudge sometimes, being a procrastinator, perfectionist, and a bit of a workhorse sometimes. So yeah, those are the two main things for me, lagoon and pool.
They're nice places to have, I suppose, especially in the heat you're in. It's a quick answer for April. My last question then is, what's your best expat life hack?
I think, other than trying to get your accommodation for free or cheap, because that can be one of your biggest costs, that's obviously got to be in there, is try, if you're doing long-term travel, try and get yourself a credit card with air miles. Now, I always advise to pay off in full if you can to avoid paying interest, but that can help you accumulate points, which you can then transfer for flights, accommodation. And if you do need to stretch your money out a bit further, having that credit is always good there as an emergency backup as well, because a lot of people don't have savings or an emergency backup, and it's good to have that card there should the worst happen. But also for those points as well, they are useful. So those would be my two main hacks.
That's a very good point. Yeah, definitely, you can do that if you want a frequent flyer in that sense. Having those points just from doing everyday shopping or living costs accumulate towards that. It's a win-win for you guys, especially if you can pay it off. That's the main thing, because often they come with extortionate interest rates. But if you can afford to pay it off, then definitely a good hack for sure. I guess thank you for your time. Thank you for taking time out of your wonderful day, and I hope you can get a dip in the pool to cool you down.
I'm thinking about it now. James is getting to that point where the fan around me is just doing nothing now but just blowing warm air. So I'm thinking, yeah, but thank you for having me. I hope, somebody listening to this thinks, I'll take the plunge and I'll try it. Or if you travel before, get back out there and, give it a go,
I'll leave you to take your plunge. And thank you for listening to the podcast. And again, if you haven't listened to the full episode, do go listen to it now, because we're just about to finish this one. And we'll see you next time for the Expat Pod.